welcome back to another video. I have just sat down to edit the second part of my comp history video and I realised that I left the last part really quite abruptly, so I thought I would film an extra intro to say sorry. But the video was going to be like an hour long, so this one will be probably still quite long, but this is the second part. And I think I did film an intro at the end of this one, but anyway, enough yapping. I will pass it back over to previous Ellen. But we wanted the QT, we wanted to go to Brits, so we booked another comp, and this was the Cold Blood Classic. The first year, I did this one 2 years in a row and they were next to each other in my comps. This was a Cold Blood Classic in Southampton. Now again, my coach couldn't or wouldn't be there. I don't know if you're noticing a theme, but this is where I was put in touch with the lovely Miriam. So Miriam, this is your shout out if you're watching, although she didn't watch the first video. So this is where I met Miriam, and Miriam handled me, and the goal was to get the QT, so that's what we wanted to do. So I had done a horrendous cut for this. I had not eaten properly in weeks. I was water loading, I was gut cutting all at once. My coach, he really wanted me as a 76. I was coaching by this point, but I wasn't at the stage of being like, I couldn't see that wasn't what I needed, if that makes sense. So I weighed in and I was over. And I remember my dad had driven me from Oxford and we'd gone down. I was wearing a full tracksuit and like a pack-a-mac in the car. And we're in July, so it's hot, and I remember making my dad have the heating on in the car because I was trying to sweat. We got there, we weighed in, we were over. My dad drove me to a JD Gyms, which was nearby. I paid for a day pass and I sat in the sauna, and then I paid for, like, you know, the little scales where you weigh yourself. So I paid for one, weigh myself, get back in the sauna, weigh myself, get back in the sauna. And my poor dad must have been thinking, what the hell is going on? Because I can't imagine seeing, like, your child go through that. I'd also had a very bad fall down the stairs of my house a few days before, because I'd woken up and I was so not eating that I was so dizzy that I blacked out and fell down the stairs, and I still to this day have a scar on my bum cheek from going down the stairs. So I can't imagine this was fun for him, but to his credit, he was very supportive and he knew how much it meant to me to compete and stuff, so he was there for me and he was very supportive and he was very helpful. And he drove me back then from the gym back to the competition, and we weighed in and we were 75.9, so we were in, but it had taken me literally so long that I remember there being about 15 minutes to go before squats were going to start. And I remember doing one warm-up and then like filling in one eyebrow, doing a warm-up, filling in the other eyebrow, doing a warm-up, doing mascara on one eye, doing a warm-up, doing my hair. Like, it was mental, and Miriam probably thought I was an absolute bat case doing this, but we got warm and we got all my makeup on, which obviously, you know, if you're a powerlifter, you know that's important. So we opened at 125 and then we jumped 132. This was the plan from coach, and this was the plan I think that we'd had back in January, so it was the same opener and the same jump. Coach wanted 135 as a third. Miriam said, no, we're doing 137. I said, just put it on the bar and I'll just do my best. Got the 137, which I was just as surprised at as anyone, I think, especially after the morning I'd had with that cut. Like, it was a bit of a grind, but, you know, we got it. We got the squat. Then for bench, we did again we were going to go for the 5 and the 2, but we opened at 65, missed 70 on the second, and I remember it really pissing me off. And by this point, Miriam had sort of informed me about the issues surrounding my coach and had sort of opened my eyes and been like, why are you doing this? Why have you fallen down the stairs, blackout, because he won't let you eat? Why have you had to spend the morning in a sauna, blah, blah, blah. And I remember after failing the 70, she said to me, she was like, don't let him win. If you miss this, then, I can't remember the exact wording, but anyway, it was an FU to the coach, basically. It was like, you get this 70, you can shove it in his face. So I went out and I got the 70. And then deadlifts, we opened on 160, which was a sleigh because that was my PR from the previous meet. And then in order to get the QT, we needed 12. So we tried to jump to 172 and it just didn't move. That's the exact phrase off the live stream. And that exact phrase went on to haunt me for a very long time after. So
overall, 172.5 kilos. Come on now, Ellen, all the way up. Oh, it just doesn't move. So that means she stays in.
It just didn't move. I tried it twice. Nothing in the tank. I was a shell of a woman, well, of a girl. I was so skinny and I had no water in my system. I had no food in my system. It was just so not good. And I remember going home and thinking, like, if this is what powerlifting is, this isn't what I want anymore. Which was sad looking back at it, because, you know, I was super close to having a QT for nationals, but I was miserable. So I made the decision to leave that coach. I had a big think and I thought there was just too much, I don't want to say trauma because that sounds really dramatic, but there was too many negative emotions and too much negativity around powerlifting and him and all of that together. So I made the decision to leave that coach. So what was I going to do then? I now have no coach, and I had fractionally missed out on a nationals QT. So I knew that I was good. I knew I wasn't like great, but I knew I had the potential to be better than I was, and I just needed some help to realise that potential. So I had a few inquiry calls with other coaches. I'm not going to name them just because it wouldn't be fair to name anyone. And I started working with another coach. I chose a female coach this time because I thought maybe she'll understand better. But I had basically the same program for like 12 weeks. It didn't change. The RPEs didn't change. The exercise, nothing changed. And I thought I can't just do the same thing day in, day out for 12 weeks. So I sacked that one off. And then I was speaking to Miriam and I was like I'm stressing now because I don't know what to do. And my trust in coaches was pretty shot at this point. You know, I'd had one who'd had a bunch of issues and tried to keep me under a weight class, and then I'd had a second that just didn't really seem to care enough about me as a person. And that was when Miriam said, look, I'll just coach you, I'll give you some programming and we'll just see how that goes and how you get on. And I'm sure she's regretting that decision now because I'm still coach with her now. So what I decided was I'd learnt that an off season or a longer period away from competing was good. So I took almost a year off until the following April, where I did the Cold Blood Classic again. Now the Cold Blood Classic is run by the Barbell division and they are sick. I love the guys over there. I've met them several times, been to several comps, and they also ran All English this year and they are just like mega. So that comp was amazing. And I knew that was the vibe and that was where I wanted to be. So I made the next iteration of that comp my next comp, and that was in the April. Now, the scariest thing was we'd decided that we would be in the 84s. The cut that I had done to try and get to that 76 was just so horrendous that I'm quite tall, and I knew that 76 for me was just not going to happen anymore. So we took the plunge, we went into the 84s, and I might have taken it a bit too seriously because I did end up having to do a gut cut to get under 84, but it was a very, very successful day. So numbers, I weighed in at 82.6, so maybe I didn't need a gut cut. I think I just gut cutted because of the trauma of not making weight. 82.6, and that was with my clothes on. I remember keeping my clothes because I remember asking, I was like, do I have to be naked? And they were like, no. So that was 82.6. I opened a squat on 145, which was 7.5 over my best, which was insane. And then I just sort of let Miriam run with it. I was like, you put what numbers you want, I'm just going to squat them. So we then went 152, 157. So we're up 20 kilos on my squat since my last comp. Bench, we opened at 65, and then Miriam does not like the 5 jump, the 2 jump, so we jumped 7 to 72.5, which I had failed in the gym about a week before, but I got it and it moved like nothing. And then we took 77.5 for a third, which was mental because now I've added 7.5 on my bench. Deadlift, we opened at 165, which was 5 above my previous max, and then we jumped 10 to 175 and 5 to 180. 180 was just like mind-blowing to me. Like, if you think way back to when I started and I missed a deadlift of 125 and now I'm at 180, mental. So I totaled 415, so I was now past the 400 mark, and I just remember feeling so strong, so good. My body physically, you know, I hadn't had to do a massive cut, I hadn't had to not eat for 3 days, etc, etc, and it was great, and I felt like being an 84 was exactly where I wanted to be. So then it came to nationals again, and what happened was this year BP changed the way that you qualify for nationals, and you had to go to either Brits the year before, English, Irish, Scottish, Welsh, or Southern or Northern. So we went for Southerns because it was down in Southampton. And I had sort of, I think, it was a hard competition for me. I had come into it and I'd been nominated first, and I just sort of let myself spiral about it. I remember thinking like, oh my god, now I really have to perform, everyone's going to be following me. I'd done a bit of a body weight cut because I was stressed about making weight, and I knew that being a lighter body weight would be an advantage. So I weighed in at 80 kilos on the dot, and I had no appetite, I wasn't hungry, I was so stressed and so panicked about like coming first, because I was, like I said, I was nominated first, and if you came first you got a ticket to Brits. So I opened my squat on 147, and then we tried to jump to 155, but I missed it twice. I just didn't have it in me. I think I was under fueled, I was over nervous, so I missed 2 of my squats. So I only got 1, but at least I was on the board. Bench, we opened at 70, jumped 5 to 75, and then missed a 2 kilo jump to 77. Again, I didn't have it in me, guys. I can't really express how much of a bad day I was having. And then deadlift, opened at 170, which was fine. Went for 180 to match the PB, and it moved like utter crap. It was so hard. And then I think we put 185 in because that would have moved me up a podium spot or something. I can't remember exactly. So I totaled 402. So I dropped 12 kilos on my subtotal, matched my deadlift, and I did come third, which is wild that I could have literally one of the worst days of my career and come third. But this sent me sideways. This wasn't good. I spiraled a lot, and I was back in that mind space, and I thought, oh, is this for me? Like, do I really want to do this? All of those negative emotions that I thought I'd gotten over at the cold blood were all coming back, and I was like, maybe this isn't for me, maybe I'm not good enough, blah blah blah. And I pretty much didn't train. After that, I normally have a week off after comp, but even after that week, I just struggled to get in the gym and just to feel like I wanted to be there. I would go and do my like SBD work, and I would pretty much just sack off all the accessories just because I didn't want to be in the gym, didn't want to be there. And I pretty much knew that my shot at Brits was out the window. Like, I hadn't won the Southerns, so it was going to be like unnominated total. So I just pretty much tanked all my training. I just pretty much stopped, and I went on holiday to Greece in the September. And I remember we'd stopped at a petrol station on the way somewhere to buy some Haribo frogs. If you've not had them, by the way, elite sweet. And I got my phone out to pay, and there was an email saying that I had got a space at Brits, and I was like, that's a surprise. So obviously I was over the moon. I was like, oh my god, I've got to nationals. Like, my goal from beginning this was to get to nationals, and now I'd done it, but I hadn't trained in months. I haven't trained. So I got back from my holiday and I was like, well, we've got literally like 7 weeks to turn this around. And I think I was nominated last, I want to say, so like, the pressure was off, which was great. I didn't want the pressure of like I'd had at Southerns, and I just spent 7 weeks just like nailing everything, and my only goal was to match my 4:15. So I just wanted to match my best total, because we'd been at 4:15, we'd dipped for Southerns. I just wanted to get back to where I was before, and that's exactly what I did. I matched my best squat, I matched my best bench, and I matched my best deadlift. All three were exactly the same, and I totaled 4:15. So that was a 157.5 squat.
Come on, Ellen. Come on. Wow, what a fight. She earned absolutely every kilo there. And it's 3 white lights. That is a good lift.
77 bench.
For her.
And that is 3 white lights, an excellent lift.
A 180 deadlift.
Come on. Come on. Come on.
There we go.
A fight there.
One good takeaway from Brits was that I had matched the bench and the deadlift on the second attempt. And I really should have had more in the bench, but I got in my head, I was like, oh my god, bench PR, panic. So I went away from Brits feeling really good. I came 7th, which is not bad, for my first nationals, and I was back to being, oh yay, this is great, I love powerlifting, back up again. This is such a roller coaster. And that was my 11th competition, so we've got one more competition to go through, and that is English. So English, the way you qualify is on total again, so you put your total and then you see if you're in the top whatever amounts of spots. When I put my 4:15 in, I hadn't made it. I wasn't in the top, and I thought to myself, well, do you know what, I'm just gonna train anyway. I hadn't expected to get to Brits, and I got to Brits. If I just pretend that I've got a spot at English and train for it anyway, I'm going to be in a good spot if I do get in. With Brits, my training in the run-up was, like I say, so shoddy that I knew that if I got to English, I didn't want to have another mid-performance. If I got there, I wanted to have something to show for it. I wanted to prove that I belonged in that space. And I did get a little spot. Again, I was nominated in last. That's fine. I recently posted a reel that was like, I might not be the strongest in the room. I might be the weakest in the room. I might literally be last, but that's last at nationals. That's last, like, in the top of the country. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, so the goal at English was new QT. They've upped the QT, so we're not doing the process of winning your home nations and winning Southerns and whatever. It's back to needing a minimum QT, and the minimum QT for the 84 was 442 kilos. Now remember, my best ever comp was 4:15, and this was December at Brits. We're now in May, so I've had 5 months to add 27.5, had to do the maths, to add 27.5, and somehow we pulled it off. I did miss my opening squat, and this was the first opening squat I've missed since my very first 3 comps, and it was on depth. I think I just panicked. I was scared. So I went back out, got the 155, and then we knew that if we wanted a shot at the QT, it was going to have to be a 165. So it was sort of load this, and if you miss it, you're not going to Brits this year. So I loaded it, and I did in fact get it. I really respond well when there's something on the line, when there's something I need. So that was fantastic. Bench, we opened at 75, then we took 82.5 and then 85. So we did a 7 and a 2 jump. Absolutely over the moon to add 7.5 to my bench. That's like mega, especially this late in the game to still be making big jumps. It's fantastic. Deadlifts, we opened at 180, which was my previous max. So that is, again, a slay. I keep saying that, but it is. And then we needed 12 to get the QT, so we added 12, went for 192. It was a lot of work, but we got it, and we finished on 442. And that meant that I have got the minimum requirement for Brits. So again, now we just wait and see how many other girls get 442 or above, and if I get a spot at Brits this year, fingers crossed, I'm going to employ the same tactic of training as if I have got a spot. And then if I don't get one, I don't get one. I'll do another regional comp like near the time. But that is it. That is what I wanted to do. So my very first comp was September 2022 and I totaled 252.5 kilos, and my most recent comp was May this year, 2026, and I totaled 442.5 kilos. So I think what the key message is, well, do you know what? There's 3 key messages. The first key message is stop competing every 4 to 6 weeks. It's absolutely insane and you don't need to do it. Stop it. The second key message is you absolutely do not need to cut down into a weight class unless you're at a national or above level. Stop it. You do not need to be doing that. Stop it right now. The third message is even if you're plateauing, even if you're not making progress, you just have to stick with it. There's competitions here where I've gone from 365 to 367, again 2.5 kilos. There's competitions where I've gone from 415 to 402 and I've lost 12.5 kilos. But where I am now compared to where I started, yes, it's gone up, it's gone down, it's gone up, it's stayed the same, it's gone up. You're always going to trend up, you're always going to get stronger. If you put the work in, if you do your exercises, you're always going to get stronger. So here's to competing less frequently than me, and hopefully I will see you at British Champs this year. And I'd like to say hopefully I'll come better than 7th, but like I say, I just want to go. I'm not really asked for a place when I get there. So that is it from me for this video. I need to go and drink a whole glass of water because I've been talking way longer than I thought I would. Please like this video. Please comment if there's anything you want to see from me, if you have any feedback on these videos. And until then, happy lifting.